Hey guys, welcome to a BMS 4.33 training video. In this one we'll be going over the AMRAAM or AIM-120 Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missile. And it's this bad boy right here. So I'm carrying the B variant, which is the AIM-120B. And the AIM-120C, as far as I know, BMS, there's no differentiation between the performance of the missile. So you can either carry the B or the C, as far as I know. So let's get into symbology. Of course, you want to have the master arm on. You want to have your countermeasures enabled in manual. And right now, I have a MiG-29A locked up, and I'll show you what he looks like here. So here's a MiG-29, and the two long-range missiles that you can see underneath his wing there. That's the A-18, and then on the outside, he has some infrared-guided missiles as well. Okay. So talking about some tactics, we'll get into tactics, but first let's talk about symbology. So first you can see I have the MiG locked up, and on the right side is some symbology. Here's where the MiG is, right here. He's locked up on the radar, and if we look at the FCR, you can see that he's at Angels 20 or 20,000 feet, and our closure rate is 946 miles per hour. Okay, that means my speed plus his speed is going to equal what the closure rate is. So on the right side here, you can see the symbology. Okay, and there's a few areas that I like to focus on, kind of in this bracket area. The little triangle right here is our arrow. That means aerodynamic range, and down here is our optimal. So this little area right here represents a non-maneuvering target. So just think, Russian bomber or something like that you're trying to intercept. Now, if you launch at maximum aerodynamic range, the bomber, if he doesn't make any type of evasive maneuvers, you're probably going to score a hit, and this is going to be a nominal or minimum probability of hit. Down here in our arrow, it's also a non-maneuvering target. That's where this little circle is here, and that is a high termination rate. In other words, you have a really high probability of killing that target. So you can see this little arrow represents our range, and it's going to slowly move down as we get closer and closer. Okay. Now for fighters, this is for a maneuvering target. You want to be in this bracket area. Okay. As we get further down at the top of this bracket, again, this area is for maneuvering targets or fighters. Up here is the R probability of intercept. Okay, and that means you have a high chance of intercepting that target with the missile if it's somewhat maneuvering. And then down here in this little bracket here, this top one is called RTR, or range to turn and run. That means pretty much if you're in this zone, if your target, a MiG-29 or fighter, whatever it is, if it turns and runs, you're going to score a kill. The missile is able to catch up in the turn. It's able to catch up. It flies at Mach 3. So between its burn time and by the time your MiG turns around, you're still going to be able to catch up to it. Okay, and then obviously down here is RMIN. There's two modes that the AIM-120 operates in. The first mode is called high pulse repetition frequency, HPRF. And then the other mode is called medium pulse repetition frequency, MPRF. You won't really hear those terms tossed around too much. What you'll hear more of is pitbull. Okay. To translate that to the symbology, up here you're operating in a high pulse repetition frequency, and that's a less accurate guiding type. And down here is the MPRF, which is the medium pulse, and that's going to be when your missile goes pitbull. Okay, what does it mean when the 120 goes pitbull? There's two radars. One is in the aircraft itself, obviously in the nose there, and there's a little radar inside of the AMRAAM in the nose of the weapon. Okay, when you're operating in this area, it's in semi-active mode. It means that it needs guidance from the aircraft in order to hit that target. Negate that. In high frequency mode, it can still hit the target, but it can't be maneuvering. Down here is when the actual missile has good lock on the target, okay, and that's when it goes pitbull. So I'm going to demonstrate a few engagements with MiG-29s, and one thing we want to understand is that a fight against a MiG-29 and the Hornet is not ideal. You want to use beyond visual range capabilities as much as possible, and it's because the MiG-29 has incredible vertical capabilities. It's a boom and zoom fighter. It goes up in the vertical, and it has a slightly greater than 1-to-1 thrust ratio. So in other words, you know, the F-18 is not really built to fight the MiG-29 in a dogfight. All right, if you do fight it, you wanna use this straight wing that you have, and you want to make it a turning fight as much as you can. All right, and the MiG-29, in a prolonged engagement, eventually it's going to have more energy than the F-18, because the straight wing, we're going to bleed off a lot of energy in turns. Okay, the F-18 accelerates slowly. It also slows down quickly, so and also has high alpha, or high angle of attack. That means you can move the nose around at very low speeds. All right, so to put this in practical use, there's one main advantage that you have over the MiG-29, and that's your jammer. And if you hit the J key, it'll go on. So what the MiG-29 is going to try to do is burn through our jammer and try to lock us up. All right, so let's demonstrate the first tactic here. As we close it on the MiG here, you can see our closure rate. Okay, now he has me locked up there. You can see the 29 there on the RWR. Alright, so what we're going to do is actually lob a missile at him. So here's a 10 degree. If I wanted to lob that, I could kind of pitch the nose up just a little bit. But let's continue on and get into RPI. And I'm going to launch at the top of this fighter bracket. You can see that's blinking now. And I'm going to go ahead and launch. So that's a Fox 3 on the MiG-29. You can see the missile burning there. So you can see he's gonna run from the missile, basically. And once he's running from that missile, he's basically running away from us. Now we can get into this. Oh, and then we got a good hit, so we didn't have to launch that second one. Alright, so in the second scenario, we're actually going to talk about some tactics that you could use. Okay, now down here is the target altitude. You can see he's at 20,000 feet, and that corresponds to the bug on the FCR. And then here's our range. We're 33.8 miles away from him. Here's a countdown timer for when we'll actually meet with the bandit. And so one of the things you want to consider is the range of your AMRAAM. Okay, now a lot of times the maximum range is something like 30 nautical miles or slightly more than that. Okay, you can see here we're at 33, and we're kind of in this non-maneuvering range against bombers and things like that. But we want to be down here. So one very important thing that you need to know is called the MAR, okay, or the minimum abort range. And according to the Dash 34 BMS manual, it's about 13 miles. Okay, now that is the absolute minimum where you can turn away from the target and still defeat that A-18, even if he launches it. Okay, so in other words, if we look at our F number, right when we're at 13, even if he launches, we know that we still have the option to split S or notch, and we'll be able to outrun that missile. Okay, you want to pick up as much speed as you can. Alright, so in this scenario, we're actually going to wait until he launches. And we do have the jammer on as in this scenario, so Alright, so just keep an eye on the F number here. There's 28. We're starting to get into this nice RPI, range probability of intercept, in this bracket here. And then we're getting the flash included because we're in range. Right now he's trying to break through our jammer. And there's 18 miles, 17. There's 16 miles. There's 13, so there's our minimum abort range, and he just launched.
Chaff flare, chaff flare. Chaff flare, chaff flare.
So let's take a look at what's going on here. There's the MiG. Let's follow his missile. And you can see I'm right down there, so that missile is trying to follow me down. Okay. In that MAR, or minimum abort range, since we did our split S maneuver notched away from him, now what we want to do is climb back up. We want to gain about 600 knots of airspeed, or as much as you can, and then you want to climb back up. We know that the motor of the A-18 is effectively burnt out at this point. You can see the motor's not running at all. So the only thing he has is kinetic energy, and if we go into a hard climb, that missile cannot regain altitude. If you keep diving, or if you turn towards it, it could possibly catch up to you. If you run away from it, it shouldn't be able to catch up to you at all. So let's continue the maneuver here, and we'll keep pulling through it. You want to do like a good 5 to 7 G pull. And let's look behind to see if we can see that missile. And here we're going to start our climb. There's the missile back there. You can see it's catching up to us here. There's the missile. It should explode, should self-detonate, and you can see it's falling out of the sky. So it's just not able to catch up to us. And there it is, exploded underneath us. I think I might have got a HUD failure here by overaging the aircraft or something like that. Alright guys, so here we are again. And let's actually use some tactics. So we want to do is launch at our maximum range, but stay out of his effective range. And you can see that he launched at us at that 13-mile minimum. So let's go ahead and launch here. Or let's wait until we get to RPI at the top of that bracket there. And we're still 24 miles away. Fox 3. And we know that the point is he's going to be fighting our missile and not us. He can't fight us and the missile at the same time. So what we can do here is use that to our advantage. We know that he's going to be maneuvering against that missile, and we're just going to keep closing on him. You can see our missile following him there. Let's see if he defeats it. I don't think he will. And that's a good kill. So in this scenario, what we're looking at is if we launch at 20 miles or in that RPI range, we can get that MiG to maneuver against our missile, okay? And as we do that, we're able to then chase him down, and then we can follow that up with another AIM-120 shot at RTR, which is range turn and run, or we can get close enough for an AIM-9 shot or guns. Now you can do this with your wingmen as well. You can engage 2 MiGs at once and launch kind of close to the maximum range. Have them fight that missile and just keep closing the distance. and then you know that he's running away from you. So you can effectively chase him down and go in for the kill. In the next scenario, we'll be looking at the MiG-29S and kind of look at its AA-12 capabilities, which are very close to the AMRAAM. Alright, so here's a dreaded MiG-29S with the AA-12s there. And this is a pretty dreaded aircraft in BMS because the AA-12 is a very effective missile. It's very similar to the AMRAAM, so kind of the same capabilities. We have a tiny bit more range with the AMRAAM, but he has very similar capabilities as us. The missile can go active by itself. It doesn't need guidance from the radar of the MiG. Alright, so what we're going to do is use a similar tactic. We're just going to get him to fight the missile. And again, your most important weapon is your jammer. That effectively reduces that MiG's BVR range by, something like half or even a third, if you kind of do the math. So what we're going to do is again, we're going to launch, have him fight the missile, and then we're going to engage him. So we can use that same tactic. Now, just to talk about defense against the AA-12, you're not going to get a missile queue when he launches. You're going to get a missile queue when that AA-12 goes active. In other words, when the missile's radar on the seeker head gets a lock on your aircraft, that's when you're going to get a little M, and it's going to be approaching your aircraft. And usually by that time, it's too late. All right. So the way we're going to mitigate that is we're going to launch. And around 20 miles, we're going to assume that he's already launched on us. So let's demonstrate that.
Chaff flare.
Alright, so there's 27. We're getting towards the top of that bracket there. There we go. We're going to launch. And let's assume that he's launched.
Chaff flare.
And you can see he's got a good lock on me.
Chaff flare. Chaff flare. Chaff flare.
There's 600 knots, and I'm just extending out. That was a missile zone. And you can see our missiles tracking towards him, and he's maneuvering against that missile. Alright, looks like he might actually beat it. Or I might be having a good day today. And looks like our AMRAAM's going to run out of speed before it actually gets to him. Maybe. And yeah, he defeated it. So let's turn back into him. And he just launched a missile at us, so we're gonna
Chaff flare. Chaff flare.
try to defeat that again.
Chaff flare. Chaff flare.
And here he is again. We're going to take a shot at him again. And hopefully he doesn't launch on us again here. And here we're very close to the RTR range, return and run range. So I doubt he'll be able to maneuver out of it. There he is right there, he's smoking. So you can see how we can use our BVR to chase him down. And now we're in guns range here.
Lock.
So you can see even the MiG-29S, we can use our BVR tactics to chase him down, stay outside of the range of the deadly range of his missiles, and chase him down for the kill.